On Story is brought to you in part by the Alice Clayburgh Reynolds Foundation, a Texas family providing innovative funding since 1979. Funding also provided by John Paul and Eloise DeJoria. On Story, presented by Austin Film Festival. A look inside the creative process from today's leading writers and directors.
Ed Weinberger, he was a great television producer, and he said those words, do the show you want to do, because in the end, they're going to cancel you anyway. That's true. That's a lesson of life. We all get canceled. When I started in New York, I was an actor, and I couldn't really get hired, and I ate tuna fish for dinner and every night, and now that I'm a writer, I eat whatever I want. So writer's just like one hair above actor, right? But some friends of mine and I wrote a show for ourselves to be in, which was a good idea, and that turned into Tony and Tina's Wedding. Yes, and I don't see a dime from that, by the way. No. So if it's okay, I'd like to spend the rest of the evening complaining about that. But that was my transition into writing. And then, you know, I found a partner who was also out of work, and we put our heads together. That's a very good way to do it, you know, because if you write with a partner, you're the bargain. They pay you one price for two people, and they like that, and that's a way that you might be able to get in.
It also makes things go a little quicker, and it's less lonely. And even if you're sinking, it's nice to drown with someone, you know?
Exactly right. Exactly
Absolutely.
Right. The head of Sony asked me if I would like to go and observe in Russia how they make sitcoms, because sitcoms didn't exist in Russia until 4 years ago, when Sony brought over The Nanny, and they translated it. And it became this monster hit. Russians turned out like sitcoms. So then they did Married with Children and Who's the Boss and these kind of shows. And Mr. Linton was telling me, oh, it's such a circus over there. You can't believe these characters. They came from all walks of life, and now they're suddenly in charge of sitcoms there. How would you like to go and observe and see how we do it and come back and write a fictional feature film, a comedy about a showrunner who goes to Russia to translate his show over there? And I said, well, that's funny, but if that situation and those people really exist, why not make a documentary? And he said, oh, I love that idea. Would you be the guy? And I think that was just his way of getting his hands on my TV show.
It's turned into a conversation about making television shows and sitcoms in Russia.
Dania, Russia.
That's The Nanny.
The Nanny. All right, and that's the...
Wow.
Okay. Argentina, Mexican Nanny. The Nanny in Indonesia.
Really?
Chile.
This is a universal phenomenon. The Nanny.
As skilled as Phil is, and as much part of, you know, the television landscape as he is here in the United States, we sort of thought, gee, wouldn't it be great to see whether we can make Raymond over there?
Wow, it is kind of a thrilling opportunity. What if we really could connect with the Russians, and then the rest of the world?
I didn't know that in the documentary I would become a character. You know, I guess I am.
You are a character.
But I watched it, and I go, that's a character. That's, you know, I guess that's the lead in the movie, that guy. That's weird, right? And it's weird to see yourself that way. I wasn't thinking of it when we were making it. I was just trying to, honestly, I was honestly trying to do my job of trying to help the Russians do that show. I wasn't thinking I'm carrying a movie, right?
I mean, you're talking about what seems to be the universal language, which is the comedy, and
You would think.
you would think.
Yeah.
You would think that the honeymooners would instantly be understood.
Yes.
And yet, but there is someone in there who understands. Your translator seems to get it, right?
Right.
The girl, she knows you're funny, and she laughs at your jokes.
Yes, she should have been in the show. No, I loved her. I mean, it just shows you can't generalize.
Right.
It's not all Russians, it's individual people.
Are they happy with the translation? Are they satisfied?
He doesn't know so far.
Have they read this script yet?
No.
Oh, he didn't read it yet.
Yes.
They haven't read it yet because they've been off working on all their other shows.
All of Marina's hard work last night and getting them the script last night was so they could read it and be prepared for this meeting, which is them telling us how they're going to make it Russian, how they believe it needs to be adapted. And if they're just going through it for the first time now, they're not prepared to do that.
Знаешь, вот я взяла, сравнила это все, и я увидела в процессе сравнивания, что там вот так обрезана половина страницы, идет сразу наплыв, хотя там до наплыва еще половина. Эми с мамой общаются каждый день, они там это 6 раз повторяют каждый день, там буквально 2 осталось реплики, а там было 6.
I'm realizing that I may be an expert in Raymond, but I need to learn a little bit more about communicating with my colleagues here.
Well, the funniest thing to me was the head of comedy.
Head of comedy. Yes.
I mean, what I took away from this thing was that more than being about family or this or that, the film is about you being the diplomat, the need for diplomacy and something as fragile as comedy. My God.
And Sony tells me I gotta meet this guy, this head of comedy for the Russian network, the new head of comedy. It's really important that we get on his good side because he's very, very important. So, okay. We meet him and he doesn't look like a head of comedy. And they brief me that he's very proud of his achievements, which include adapting The Nanny and Who's the Boss, the biggest comedy hits on Russian television.
I'm a big fan of yours because they showed me The Nanny.
Весь там как бы свой опыт и.
I just tried to introduce my experience into any new product.
Я очень люблю.
How excruciating is it
Very.
to watch things mangled?
Very, very. I'm sure that you have had this experience and you didn't have to go to another country to get it. I mean, I think that's the point I was trying to make, is that, oh, aren't they? And then I come home and it's here too. I mean, really, I can show you heads of comedy that are just as severe.
Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about, the Raymond stuff.
Мы хотим просто немножко поговорить о Реймонде.
Gets around to saying how hilarious The Nanny is and how funny it is and why it's so funny.
It's funny even when just reading the script.
And when I read Raymond,
It is not funny.
how much am I supposed to take? I don't have to come to Moscow to be told I'm not funny. I could hear that in my house.
So you had the experience too of somewhat choosing actors.
Yes.
What are the qualities when you look at something that spark you? What's the thing in an actor that most excites you, makes you want to use that person?
It's funny, like watching these people, people were asking me as it was going on, how do you know who's funny? You don't speak the language, but somehow you know. It's like when you go to a foreign movie and you see like Roberto Benigni. We all know he's funny. Funnier than the guy he's standing next to. It's just something that comes across. And you know someone who's a great actor without being funny, someone who can move you. I think there's a humanity in all of us, and we see it in the eyes, and we see it in the expression, and we feel it. And that is universal. This older guy comes in to read for the father role.
Мужчина должен быть мужчиной. Бороться за свою свободу.
А кто говорил, чтобы я не рассказывал маме про блондинку?
You know a guy is good when he can get laughs without even reading any lines.
When they're good, they're good. You know right away. He's great. I would cast him right away.
You know, one of the problems in Russia was they were saying, why would we make it like real life? We live real life every day. That's not funny, right?
And then they might have a point, you know.
They might have a point, but then when they do this broad kind of sketchy stuff, I noticed they weren't laughing.
Right.
Because of their experience, they think that believable somehow won't get them laughs. I think that's their fear.
And I would buy that if they were laughing at their way. Look how unhappy they look. So I think they think there's a bus stop.
And they'll get even more and more upset when the time passes and there is no one.
Stop! I actually have an idea, which is to, right before the scene starts, kick them in the balls.
You're walking into the unexpected, and you have no idea, and that's scary always, especially with the very real threats that you read about and see in the news. But then you learn, okay, I don't have to be afraid physically, but here's something else, like, oh, they're going to ruin your show. You know, so that was a new fear. And so you try just to protect it, and people always ask, why didn't you leave? What'd you stay there for? What are you, an idiot? And I said, yeah, because I cared about it. That's the simplest and truest answer. I cared, and I couldn't accept that they couldn't get. I knew that they could. I knew that they could get it, because we're all people. I can't believe when, like, there's a girl in the movie who says, people in Russia, they're not interested in families and dealing with their parents. Yeah. I just don't believe it. I still don't believe it.
Are there cultural differences, like you see Arab TV and there's a comedy show where a guy walks up, puts a briefcase next to you and runs away as fast as he can? And I thought, oh, that's funny.
Or the Japanese shows where the guy is sleeping, have you seen this? And they wheel a cannon into the bedroom and set it off. And then they laugh.
I mean, is it just that certain cultures are more fundamentally cruel in their dealings?
Yes. A lot of sick bastards out there.
Or do people in Russia see that this is somehow a revolutionary shift in the sort of comedy they're used to? Do they recognize the difference?
I'd like to think that's why it's now the #1 show. Because suddenly they go, oh, this is something that I really relate to. That's what I'd like to think. But I'll tell you something, that I watch the shows on the internet. They send them to me. And early on, they sent me an episode where in the middle of the episode, sexy nurse walks in, like out of Laugh-In, with big boobs and a short skirt, like this. And I called them, I said, what the hell is that? We never had that in the show. They said, oh, Russians like that. So it was still a battle. It was still, try to get them to come around to it. To me, there's a fundamental problem with the Russian version, still. And that is Raymond. I wouldn't cast that guy. I just wouldn't. Magic time.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Uh-oh. They shot that? And they were laughers? Yeah. Okay.
They do it again. This isn't naturalism. It's more like a Russian folk dance.
I think if it really happens to you, like, it's just low. You can hardly breathe. This note is not getting through. It's not believable.
I'd like to talk to our director, but he keeps walking away.
They're not interested.
They now changed the name from Everybody Loves Kostya to the Voronins. Now, why did they do that? Because I don't think Raymond could carry the show. So they made it about the whole family and sold it that way. So they made it work for them. But I prefer a funny Raymond. That's just me.
Well, this is what impressed me the most, was that you came into this with people saying, start doubting, Phil, because obviously Russian sensibilities...
Totally different, yeah.
Totally, they're not going to like this. They're just...
Right.
And then it's the #1 show. So the idea of persistence then,
Yes.
really paying off with
I'm glad you got that out of it, because what I got out of it is after I left, they did whatever the hell they want and made it a big hit.
Hi, my name is Kristian Ussing Anderson, and I'm the director of The First Anders. The idea for the film originally came from a Canadian writer-producer called Tyler Levine, who was staying in Denmark at the time, and we were sharing an office. He came to me with the idea of making a short film about an effeminate Viking. You always see like burly, manly Vikings, but he had this idea about a not-so-manly Viking, and he wrote a script in English called The Viking Poet. And I liked it a lot, and together we developed that into what is now The First Anders. One interesting anecdote about the film is when we have the kid in the hole, at one point I was really going for like a method actor thing from him. So I told him, he's 10 years old, so I told him I would give him my iPod if he chewed the live bug that was on his face, if it went into his mouth. Because I thought that would add some gritty realism to the film. And then actually one of the bugs did crawl inside his mouth, and I got so scared that he was actually going to chew it that I stopped him. I yelled cut, and it's actually in the outtakes at the end, I think. And he's laughing and the bug crawls back out of his mouth again. I'm pretty happy that he didn't eat it. Coming up is my film, The First Anders. Thanks for watching.
Jonas, du har da godt nok travlt, hva'? Hvad sker der?
Jeg skal lige noget, far.
Ja, okay, kom lige her.
Far har altså ikke tid til din historie lige nu.
Okay, fair nok. Kom lige. Hvad er det, der er så vigtigt? Skal du ud og bygge noget? Hvad skal du med hammeren?
Ikke noget.
Er der noget galt? Er de der drenge? Har de været efter dig igen? Er det okay? Jonas, der findes andre måder at ordne sådan noget her på, end at slås. Og våben, det er aldrig løsningen. Kom lige her. Jonas, nu tror jeg, det er på tide, du får at høre om din allerældste forfader, den første Anders.
Far, jeg vil altså...
For over 1000 år siden gik den første Anders alene over det danske land. På det tidspunkt blev han anset for at være en kampdygtig mand allerede i din alder. Men Anders var en anderledes viking. Han var en følsom type, kunstner og poet. Han troede på fred og nægtede at bære våben. Og netop fordi han var anderledes, så slog og sparkede de andre børn i landsbyen ham. Men Anders nægtede at slås, og til sidst så smed de ham ud af landsbyen for altid. Anders gik og gik Han gik og gik og gik og gik og gik og gik og gik. Og gik og gik og gik og...
Far, jeg har fattet, at han går meget langt. Okay?
Ja, okay, men prøv nu at høre her. Pludselig en dag kom Anders forbi en rivaliserende landsby. Og som altid tog Anders imod dem med åbne arme. De puttede ham i et hul i jorden, så han kun havde hovedet fri. I lang tid overlevede han i hullet ved at spise insekter og drikke regnvand. Men de havde begravet ham netop der, hvor mændene fra landsbyen plejede at tisse. Det var en hård tid, og Anders måtte finde al sin indre styrke og tålmodighed for at klare det. Selv kvinderne tog del i løgene. Der gik lang tid. Men en skønne dag ændrede alt sig. Mændene i landsbyen drog afsted for at slås mod mændene fra Anders' gamle landsby. Det var den blodigste kamp, der nogensinde var set før eller siden. Kampene var så voldsomme, at alle mændene i begge landsbyer omkom. Uden en eneste mand tilbage i de to landsbyer, blev Anders pludselig meget populær blandt kvinderne. Og netop derfor er der så mange her i landet, der hedder Andersen. Det betyder nemlig oprindeligt søn af Anders. Og ligesom ham, Jonas, har du en utrolig gave i form af din kreativitet og din evne til at se alt, hvad der er anderledes. Du er tip gange 100 oldebarn af den første Anders. Og som du kan se, så nogle gange betaler det sig ikke at slå igen. Brug hovedet, Jonas. Vær tålmodig. Og om 1000 år, så vil folk fortælle din historie til deres børn. Smut så med dig.
Hvor skal du hen, din svans? Hey, din lille tøsdreng, mand. Hvad laver du? Sker der for dig?
Gå væk. Gå væk.
Hvordan gik det?
Nej, please.
Den her historie, den er fra en ikke helt så fjern slægtning. Kristian Andersen var en kæmpe og en brav soldat. Det siges, at han engang med sine bare næver kvælte livet af 20 spanske landsoldater. Han var så modig, at han en vinter, hvor det havde sneet i 40 dage og 40 nætter, ensomt gik ud fra landsbyen for at jage alle de ulve, der havde samlet sig i området. Og han var så stærk og frygtindgydende, at selv de modigste mænd brød grædende sammen bare ved synet af ham.
Jeg kunne godt se det. Jeg kunne godt se det. Pis. Hurtigt tilbage igen.
Jeg vil ikke gå med krig.
Hvor sejt det her!